All in Sports Network. We love sports.
The Kansas City Chiefs have had their first practice of Week 14, which comes with their first injury report as well, and some major breaking injury news. We'll get that out to you here today on the Chiefs Report. I'm Jay Sanders, and we welcome you in to the Rogue Sports Network. We appreciate you hanging out with us and tuning in to the show in whatever way that may be, whether you're listening on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, or if you're watching on YouTube. We certainly do appreciate it, and make sure you hit a follow or subscribe in either way. But let's talk about the Kansas City Chiefs today and talk about some major breaking news that we got earlier from Andy Reid's press conference, as we start with the unfortunate news about Josh Simmons. He has officially gone on IR after a successful wrist surgery. So if you don't know the full details, Josh Simmons got injured with a dislocated wrist against the Dallas Cowboys. It was immediately expected that the ultimate goal or ultimate in process of this was that he would end up on injured reserve. And now that process has officially been completed. He will be out for at least the next 4 weeks, and with 5 games left in the season, there's a slight possibility that he may not return for the entire year, which, if that is the case, it wraps up one of the more intriguing rookie contracts, or excuse me, not rookie contracts, but rookie years for pretty much anybody in the 2025 NFL draft, just because of the kind of command he had on offense. I mean, listen, he wasn't the best guy out there, but as a rookie, having a 62.7 PFF grade is something that I will take, and having a 75.5 pass blocking rate, which ranked him 21st out of all 80 tackles in the NFL, is pretty dang good. But ultimately, why this season was so interesting and why he is going to be talked about a lot this offseason as a what if / what he can do in season number 2 is because of how much time he missed. Now, if you go back to the first part of the year, he was looking pretty good and seeming like he was proving to be as valuable as the first round pick he was selected as. Then some things kind of started to take a turn, and that's where he missed about 5 weeks due to quote unquote personal reasons. Again, we don't have the official report of what exactly happened. I don't think we are necessarily pondering to know, just because if it was that personal, respect to all of him. And of course, the Kansas City Chiefs immediately were handling it as if this was a very serious matter and that he could go be with his family. So nothing to be mad about there in a lot of ways. But from a playing perspective this season, ultimately, he didn't really play in that many games because, well, he missed 5 weeks for there. And now he's going to miss the last 5 weeks of the season. I mean, it's just something that you look at and think, yeah, well, it wasn't exactly the most highly anticipated first round pick season you could expect. If you kind of go over what all he was doing this season, it's just kind of a weird one. And ultimately, he's going to be active for like less than 10 games, basically, in his first season as an NFL rookie. Again, I do respect everything that he did, and I think the Kansas City Chiefs and their response to not only him missing time, but the family matter that it was involved with, it says a lot. It says about how much this really meant, and in a lot of ways, how bad the personal matter, whatever it might be, was. So it is something to note that he will be out for a little bit. In terms of what exactly we can expect for him to return, I mentioned it. If the Chiefs lose, in theory, in really any one of the next 4 games, or miss out to a point where when he can return, the Chiefs are not in playoff contention, that is something to note. Obviously, Houston this Sunday night, then you face off against Los Angeles and Tennessee. Then you have your Christmas game against Denver, and then your final game of the regular season against the Las Vegas Raiders, which is the game that he could, in theory, return to. A dislocated wrist for an offensive lineman could be longer than 4 weeks to heal. So even if the 4 weeks comes and the Chiefs are in playoff contention and they want to bring him back, it may not be a whole heart option, because 4 weeks is like the expectation, but doesn't mean it's the maximum weeks he's going to be out. He could easily miss that 5th week as well. So I'd say the more than likely option is that he doesn't play again the regular season for one reason or the another, whether it's the Chiefs are out of playoff contention and there's no point to bring him back, or it's that the Chiefs ultimately are wanting him back in that fourth or fifth week, rather, but he maybe is not ready. I mean, the only option that he does play, I mean, there's three options. He's ready to go and he can play. He is wanted back and can't play, or the Chiefs are out of the playoffs and for playing one game after he's already missed so much time, why play him against the Raiders in a what would be a meaningless game? I don't think there's a point to do that as well. So, an unfortunate end if this is what it is to his season. Again, a really good PFF pass blocking grade. His run blocking grade wasn't great. That's really what took his PFF grade down. He was one of the, I'm not going to say it, but I'm going to say it. It's one of the worst run blockers in all of the NFL. 48.1 PFF grade at 74th out of 80 tackles. I reference PFF a lot. Pro Football Focus is a very good metric to base this line, but this season there has been some interesting numbers, so it's just what it is. From an eye test perspective, Simmons has been great, and I am going to thoroughly miss him on the roster. With this all being said, there's a couple of kind of updates with this. So in terms of who will be taking over his spot, obviously we know Wanya Morris is going to be in the mix and more. Jalen Moore is going to be there, but I'm talking more roster spot. It does seem like Essa Pohl did officially get signed to the active roster. Got a report that a Chiefs fan favorite could be in line for a big opportunity. And not just that, we also got, let me see if I can find, here it is. Essa Pohl, it looks like, will take the spot of Josh Simmons on that 53-man roster. And it's somebody that kind of excited to see. A very good swing tackle. Jalen Moore will be there, or excuse me, Jalen Moore will be there, but Essa Pohl, it's a guy that I could trust. He was obviously promoted this past week in terms of injury, and Essa Pohl could potentially unseat Wanya Morris in 2025 is what some reports are saying. I think that it may be a long shot for this year, but the fact of the matter that they chose him to take over that roster spot, to be in line for this Chiefs team, to use him, it definitely is something to watch. So, that's obviously a big thing. Essa Pohl being brought up last week, kind of a luck of the draw type thing there, where you are unsure of your offensive line depth because you had Trey Smith out. And then, of course, the injuries to Taylor and Simmons, and you ended up needing him. And now people really do like him after the practice squad signing. People were hailing him. Then he gets on the roster as he gets pulled up. Now he's officially signed. It's a very good thing. But that was not the only Kansas City Chiefs signing we had in this, as today Matt Derrick also reported that the Chiefs did officially make a signing from those tryouts. If you remember vaguely, we talked about it yesterday. The Chiefs, who rarely ever have tryouts mid-season, had about 8 different tryouts had a tryout for 8 different players. There was 3 wide receivers and 5 offensive tackles. There was no wide receiver injuries, but just because of the wide receivers that were available, they tried them out. Tackle was the one we expected them to sign, and that's ultimately what happened, as they did try to get somebody, and ultimately they do get somebody. Offensive tackle Matt Waletzko, he is signing to the practice squad. Now, he was a 5th-round pick in 2022, and he also spent time with the Vikings on their practice squad in this season. And as mentioned here, Matt Derrick again says once again that Essa Pohl will be the one to replace Josh Simmons in the 53-man roster, which of course means that Waletzko takes the practice squad opening after you sign Pohl, who was on the practice squad, to the active roster. Kind of a hunkering of moves. I don't know what the best way to call that is, but either way, you make it to where it works out. Get a really cool guy. And I actually do like Waletzko. If you look at some of his scouting reports, that's kind of what we're going to go to now. Here is one Nick Jacobs had saying, Matt Waletzko in North Dakota State is a serviceable left or right tackle. He played both in college, and I think he shines more at right tackle. He struggles athletically getting out into space and looks clunky on pulls. His pad level is a little high in traps and gets him stonewalled. He mirrors really well and creates a wider pocket for the quarterback. He just really needs to work on his strength training and getting into space, or he will be limited scheme-wise in the NFL. Now, that doesn't really mean too much just because he will be on the practice squad, but of course that means scout team, that means an extra body, that means he could be protecting Patrick Mahomes at times during a practice. And so obviously there is want for this guy, and they liked him a lot. I think Something that was notable about the tryouts from yesterday was that they had some very athletic, or in terms of wide receivers, athletic guys, and then in terms of tackles, bigger guys. And they went with a guy who was not the biggest guy, or was the most athletic or the most fast. So there obviously is something that Brett Veach or Andy Reid or someone with the Chiefs organization saw and said, yeah, we like that. We like that this is what he has, and we're going to use that, tenfold throughout our season. So it is something to watch for. Again, with the 5 games left in the season, with the offensive line injuries that we're going to talk about here in just a moment, there's a very real possibility that he might not be signed on the 53-man roster, but he could easily be pulled up for a game or two with these last 5 games and maybe make an appearance here or there on the offensive line. So it was very important for the Kansas City Chiefs, especially with their offensive line injuries, to find a tackle they were trustworthy in. Seems they have found that in Matt Waletzko, and him. Again, a guy from North Dakota State. North Dakota State is a pretty good powerhouse in the FCS level, so it is something guys like Trey Lance, Carson Wentz, the big names. Christian Watson also went to North Dakota State, so a couple of big guys. I believe it was Hunter Lipke. I think he's on the Cowboys. He also went to North Dakota State. So lots of guys who have gone through that program have come and been very successful in the NFL level. Waletzko, who was originally a 5th-round pick with the Cowboys, could easily be successful. Still, it is interesting. 2022 draft pick, so not like he's crazy old, but again, it is something to note that when you play with North Dakota State, most of the time you play all 4 years, which is the case here with Waletzko. So he is not approaching 30, which isn't a bad thing, but he's approaching 30 in a lot of ways. So I don't know what the expectation is past this season. I think in a lot of ways he is a body, and a warm body that you can trust and use on your offensive line and scout team and practice squad, obviously. And the option is always there, where if you do continue to have these injuries on your offensive line, you can trust that you can pull him up, activate him on the roster. And if he is asked to go in and protect, you can at least have some confidence in him to go out there and get the job done. So that's what it is with Matt Waletzko. We're going to come back here in just a moment after our word from our friends over at DraftKings. Got some major injury updates from Andy Reid, talking about the latest injury report and so much more. We'll be right back here on the Chiefs Report. Missouri, your moment is finally here because DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app, is now live in your state. Now you can make every game even more exciting with same-game parlays, money lines, props, and more. All from your phone, all safe, secure, and easy to use. Missouri fans know game day, the tailgates, the noise, the passion. Now, with DraftKings Sportsbook, you can bring that same energy to every snap, every touchdown, every win. And right now, new Missouri customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets instantly. No waiting, no nonsense, just pure action powered by America's top-rated sportsbook app. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code 365Chiefs. New Missouri customers bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets instantly. That's code 365Chiefs. Crown is yours in partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER, 21 plus. Physically present in Missouri. Eligibility and restrictions apply. Terms at DraftKings.com/sportsbook. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see sportsbook.draftkings.com/promo. Once again, you can use $5 and get $300 of bonus bets instantly by using that code 365Chiefs. Go check it out. Missouri just got it here December 1st. Go out there and check it out. DraftKings, again, want to thank them a huge amount for helping us get this show and this channel up and running for a lot of reasons. Let's talk about the Kansas City Chiefs injury. So obviously they have their first practice of week 14 in preparation for what is a must-win game against the Houston Texans on Sunday Night Football. And it's a contest that is must-win for a couple of different reasons. The first is that you're in a struggling spot. That's obviously the biggest one. The second is that another team that is in that little like floating area of trying to fight for that last spot in the AFC playoffs. And guess what? It's the Houston Texans. And in a lot of ways, if you lose to the Texans, it's another, even if you're able to win the next 4 games after that or whatever, it's another team that you ultimately don't have the tiebreaker against. So really does make this a must win. And we have some major injury updates from Andy Reid, who spoke with everybody today at his press conference. Here's the official report. Obviously, we know Josh Simmons he's not going to practice and he won't be practicing for the next 4 weeks with that wrist injury that landed him on the injured reserve. Besides that, though, pretty similar to last week, Christian Roland Wallace, who missed the game against the Cowboys, Jawan Taylor with a tricep injury, and Trey Smith, they all will not practice for the Chiefs today. I am curious to say that Smith, Taylor, and Roland Wallace, according to Andy Reid, they, quote, have been making progress. Now, what does that mean? What is the extent of making progress? I don't really know, to tell you the truth. The hope is we can see them in a limited form, whether it's tomorrow for a practice or Friday for practice. But if they can somewhat come out here and play in a limited facet, then maybe we can trust them a little more to actually be ready to play on Sunday. The big name in that list is obviously Trey Smith. He is just such a huge part to this offensive line, to this team. In my opinion, he's one of the best offensive linemen in the NFL. He's getting paid like it, and he changes the dynamic of the team. We saw it against the Dallas Cowboys. Now, they do have a fantastic defensive line for sure, but Trey Smith can make a difference. And obviously, Jawan Taylor, the penalties are there, but he's better than the option of Wanya Morris or Jalen Moore. And I think that's where you have to look at this team as a holistic team and say, yeah, this offensive line, if you're missing Josh Simmons, Trey Smith, and Jawan Taylor, yikers, that's not going to be good whatsoever. So could it be something that we can see the Chiefs come out here and maybe all three of, or excuse me, Jawan Taylor and both Trey Smith can play? For sure. And if they do, it's going to make a world of difference. But if they can't, what exactly are the options? Well, I mentioned the names, but do want to go to Daniel Herms for this one as he's the official report. This is straight from Andy Reid saying that if Jawan Taylor misses this week as well, Reid will likely be with Wanya Morris at left tackle and Jalen Moore at right tackle, which that is not who I want to have my offensive line with the season on the line, with all respect to both Jalen Moore and Wanya Morris. It's just switching right and left tackles. It's motion on the line. It's different linemen. And I think so many times, especially as NFL fans, we kind of look at skill positions and groups of skill positions and in terms of positional groups as an actual group. But the one that we don't really understand, like obviously wide receiver, your routes can be better or worse depending on your other wide receivers. In terms of running backs, you can get different formations based on different running backs, especially in the defense, your linebacker group, your secondary group. It's all groups. But for the offensive line, I don't think we truly group them as much as we should. And I think that's something that the Chiefs are somewhat running into in a lot of ways, is that missing one person can affect the entire line because it forces everybody to be a little more cognizant. And you are so close. You are playing right here with each other, and you needed to be in sync with all of them. And while most teams, of course, the expectation is for you to be in sync with every single one of your teammates, it can change a lot when that entirety of the offensive line, whether the right side or left side or three players, just get taken off. And we saw that last week, a little bit of just some miscommunication, extra penalties, and it was tough. It was tough. And so for this week, missing potentially Trey Smith and Jawan Taylor against what is one of the best defenses in the NFL, in the Houston Texans, it's cause for concern. Will Anderson is a beast. You also have the likes of the secondary that we know from the Houston Texans that can go out there with Derek Stingley and really cause some trouble. And guess what? When you pair those two together, where you have Will Anderson in your face the entire game because Wanya Morris or Jalen Moore is not as good as Trey Smith or Jawan Taylor, and then Patrick Mahomes is forced to throw it away quicker or try and get the ball out quicker, it can allow for the defensive secondary of the Texans to get better positioning, get picks, bat the ball away, be in better positionment, or have a floater go up in the air and open for grabs for a pick. I mean, we saw that a couple of times in the game against the Dallas Cowboys. And so the injuries are something to work with. Do you want to talk quickly about Christian Roland Wallace? He is a cornerback who I think is a little bit underrated just because we look at the cornerbacks that you have with the likes of Noah Williams and, of course, Trent McDuffie and some of the younger guys. It's somebody that you somewhat miss a little bit. Very underrated piece of this Chiefs defense, especially last week with the likes of George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb. It definitely would have helped to have him out there. For this week, Nico Collins, Jaden Higgins, got Dalton Schultz. I mean, Their wide receiver core is probably not as good as the Texans, or excuse me, as the Cowboys, but it's still a group that you can see to be very good, and some teams that you trust. The good thing about this game, and the good thing when it comes to talking about this injury, is that you're going to be playing an Arrowhead, and that is something that has been a key thing for the Kansas City Chiefs this season. And for Patrick Mahomes in his career, quite honestly, because the game that was quote unquote the biggest game of the year, the Indianapolis Colts, was played in Arrowhead Stadium. If that game was played in Indianapolis because of how close it was, I don't know the Chiefs win. I don't. They're just very good at home, and especially against AFC opponents. Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes has not lost there since the Christmas Day game against the Las Vegas Raiders in 2023. And so, do I want to see that he can lose this game? No, I don't want to say that, but it's a reality. And if he does, it's something to watch for. And so, fingers crossed, we come to you on Sunday night, and we're talking positive vibes. We're talking good things, and we're talking about this team being in a very good spot. But at the same time, with the way this team has been shaping out, and with the way that this team has continuously looked at times, and when you add the fact of the injuries, it could be a struggling point. Now, again, we can see with Jawan Taylor, we can see with Trey Smith and Christian Roland-Wallace, for that matter, if they're limited in practice tomorrow. It's good to say that Andy Reid did say they were making progress, but progress means nothing without activity on the field. And so, for me, we're in a tough spot, and we need all the bodies out there, and it's a must-win game. If Jawan Taylor or Trey Smith are good to go at any rate, unless it's something where they could risk a career-altering injury, put them out there. You kind of need to. You really need to, because I listen. Wanting more, the more you're great. It's fine. Trey Smith, even as a little bit banged up, is going to be a better option. He is. This is a very good defense for the Houston Texans. Very good. Tomorrow we'll come back. We'll have the injury reports for the Houston Texans and the Kansas City Chiefs. We'll also have our preview episode tomorrow. We'll talk about what this game means for both sides, breaking down the key parts of it and why exactly this team is better than that, or this is important for that. It's going to be a very good Houston Texans defense versus a very good Kansas City Chiefs offense, and kind of a similar situation to the Cowboys. And we know how that game went, so hopefully it could be a different situation on Sunday night. With that being said, though, we do appreciate you hanging out with us here on the Chiefs Report. Again, whether you're listening or watching, we thank you for your support. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you're on YouTube, or if you're watching or listening on Apple Music or Spotify, make sure you go down there and you hit that follow button. For now, though, guys, we will see you tomorrow. Again, preview and more injury updates, both from the Texans side and the Chiefs side. So we'll get all of that to you tomorrow. We appreciate it. We'll see you next time here on the Chiefs Report. Peace out, everybody.
All in Sports Network. We love sports.